Hello, I'm Dr. Jigar Banchal, an occupational therapist. This is the final part of humerus fracture, and in this, the further details have been given of the treatment and the other approaches and all what can be the complications. Thank you. So now here and in this type, so before going to this, there are certain operative procedures which are being conducted. So if you see that the operative treatment, basically there are certain indications for the operation, when to conduct the operation and when what all things to be taken care. So failed conservative treatment, multiple fractures and unstable fractures, multiple system injuries, radial nerve palsy after close reduction, pathological fractures, compound fractures with vascular injuries, then segmental fractures, intra-articular extension into shoulder and elbow joints, then bilateral humeral fractures, then brachial plexus injuries or ipsilateral shoulder or forearm fractures. Also, there are certain methods that DCP plating for the fractures at all the levels, and still uh, which remains as the gold standard. And also LC DCP is preferred, and the radial nerve injury is concerned. As in the previous parts of the course, I have also mentioned about the other complications like the radial nerve injury, which can happen in the humerus fracture. So the intramedullary fixation and middle third fractures. Also rigid, you can say. Then you have rigid interlocking nail is being tried recently for the segmental fractures, proximal and distal fractures, basically pathological fractures, polytrauma patients, and other. So there are multiple flexible retrograde nailing is also done. So self-locking expandable nails are being tried. Also external fixation for open fractures is tried, as you can see in these images which A and B, which is shown here. And so in this in uh, properly indicated cases, open reduction and rigid internal fixation with DCP plate and screws is the recommended method, as you can see here in the image A. And also interlocking nail technique is now being used, more commonly used for the comminuted fractures of the humerus, which you can see in the figure B. Then there are certain complications like radial nerve injury. So this is again as in the image on the right side, which you can see here, that how the radial nerve is trapped. So this is common in lower third fractures and is usually of a high variety. It may also be damaged in the spiral groove. So close fractures need observations, splinting of wrist and fingers. If a radial nerve deficit occurs after close manipulation, immediate exploration is necessary. Then the thing is, there are certain Sarmiento brace is a good alternative to IM nailing with 84% success rate. Interlocking nail. Then you have nerve racking fact. There are certain facts about the radial nerve. That is, commonest nerve to be injured in fracture shaft humerus. Incidence is 2 to 18% at the middle one third of the fracture, which recurs spontaneously by 3 to 4 months. Exploration indicated beyond 3 to 4 months. Radial nerve palsy appearing after close reduction is an absolute indication for exploration. Also, vascular injuries on the other side to the that is to the brachial vessels is unusual. It requires repeated assessment and prompt treatment. Then you have malunion, that is in humeral fractures, angular deformity of 20 degree is acceptable in the middle and distal one third, while in the proximal one third, 30 degree is acceptable. So whether the thick muscles in the upper arm is usually conceal the malunion. Also, this I have mentioned in the previous advantages, basically pros and cons of this stereotype of this type of fracture. There are certain acceptable levels of malunion, say up to 3 centimeter shortening, 20 degrees of varus angulation, and 30 degrees of anterior or posterior angulation. So these are acceptable levels of a malunion. Also, you have a non-union. It is not very common but may be seen due to overweight hanging cast. And also, this requires open reduction, excision of the fibrous tissue, rigid plating, and bone grafts. So if you have, there is a Holstein-Lewis fracture. So it is a spiral fracture of the distal third, wherein radial nerve is more often injured. So that is known as, again I'll speak out the name, that is Holstein device fracture. So these are the certain types which you can see in the fractures. Now also I will discuss little in detail about the proximal level of fracture and the distal level of fracture. So now here we see the overview of the humerus fracture basically. So in this there are certain proximal, we will talk about proximal humerus fracture. So which are the common fractures after seen in the older patients with the osteoporotic bone also, following simple ground level fall on the outstretched hand. And the sling immobilization is a treatment for the majority of these fractures. Surgical treatment may be indicated in more complex and displaced fracture. The incidence, if we say, that is 4 to 6% of all the fractures, and third most common or non-multiple fractures pattern seen in the elderly more than 65 years of age. Also, two-part surgical neck fractures are also most common. 2 is to 1 is the female to male ratio, and the increasing age associated with more complex fracture types, because generally they have larger amount of falls compared to other. So and may occur at the surgical neck, anatomical neck, tuberosity, greater tuberosity, lesser tuberosity. The risk factors are again osteoporosis, diabetes, epilepsy, female gender. In mechanism, if you see, there is low energy falls, then elderly with osteoporotic bone, high energy trauma like accidents in young individuals or concomitant soft tissue and neurovascular injuries. In pathanatomy, we have vascularity of the articular segment, which is more likely to be perceived. More than 8 mm of the calcar is attached to the articular segment. There are also predictors for the humeral head ischemia, less than 8 mm of calcar length attached to the articular segment. Then disrupted medial hinge, increased fracture complexity, displacement more than 10 mm, angulation more than 45 degrees. Then predictors of the humeral head ischemia, which does not necessarily predict subsequent avascular necrosis. So you also have the associated conditions like nerve injury, axillary nerve injury, most common, and arterial injury, that is uncommon, 5 to 6%. Higher likelihood in older patients, and most often occur at level of surgical neck or with subcoracoid dislocation of the head. So there are certain ways actually in which this fracture issue takes place. Also, in anatomical neck, if we see that this represents the old epiphyseal plate. Surgical neck again represents the weakened areas below head, more often involved in fractures than anatomical neck. Average neck shaft angle is 135 degrees. The muscles, if you see here, so there are certain pectoris major displaces shaft anteriorly and medially. Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor externally rotate greater tuberosity, and subscapularis internally rotates articular segment or lesser tuberosity. Again, you have coracohumeral ligament that attaches to the coracoid and greater tuberosity and strengthens the rotator interval. Then there are certain blood supplies. If you see, there is anterior humeral circumflex artery, large number of anastomosis with other vessels in the proximal humerus branches. So if you see that this actually organizes the fracture into three main groups, and additionally subgroups is based on the fracture location, status of the surgical neck, and presence or absence of dislocation. So that's why you have a near classification here. So this based on the anatomical relationship of four segments, that is greater tuberosity, lateral tuberosity, articular surface, and shaft. And consider a separate part with the displacement of more than 1 centimeter angulation of 45 degrees. So here we see that in the presentation the symptoms is kind of a pain, and you have swelling, decreased motion, uh, uh, extensive ecchymosis of chest, arm and forearm, then Axillary nerve injury most common. Then the function of deltoid muscle, which as and the lateral shoulder sensation, arterial injury, which may be masked by the extensive collateral circulation possible in distal pulses. Then in imaging, you can also see it with the radiographs, with the recommended views like true anterior posterior, scapular Y view, axillary, then CT scans for preoperative planning, humeral head and gradal tuberosity position, then intra-articular comminution, uh, concern for head splits fracture. MRI is also indicated for rarely, means useful for to identify associated rotator cuff injuries. There is also in treatment there are certain non-operative methods like sling immobilization followed by progressive rehabilitation indications. So in the treatment, if you see there is non-operative, there is immobilization followed by progressive rehabilitation. In this, there is a post-proximal humerus fracture. For this, we have if there is a minimal displaced surgical or anatomical neck fractures, graded tuberosity fracture displacement less than 5 mm and more than 5 mm displacement will result in impingement and with loss of abduction or external rotation fractures in patients who are non-surgical candidates. So these are certain indications for which we can use sling. Also, additional variables if we consider our age, type of fracture, fracture displacement, bone quality. You have dominance, general medical condition, concurrence injuries. So these are the things which is to be taken care when for the sling. Also, immediate therapy is very much important for the faster recovery. Then operative in that there is close reduction percutaneous pinning, that is CRPP. So which is indicated when two-part surgical neck fractures, three-part and valgus impingement, four-part fractures in patient with good bone quality. So minimum metaphyseal comminution and intact medial calcar and considerably higher complication rate compared to ORIF, HA and RSA. Then open reduction fixation is also important for the outcomes like medial support necessary for the fracture and posterior medial comminution. Intermediate nailing is also important. That arthroplasty. So there are certain ways and indications in arthroplasty indicated when there is hemiarthroplasty when younger patients of 4 to 65 years of old with complex fractures. Young means young to older patients like so with a complex fracture or head splitting components likely to have complications with ORF. Then if there is a surgical neck, that is the most common functional pattern. Deforming forces like like in this pectoral is pull shaft anterior and medial and head and attached tuberosity stays neutral. So here there are non-operative procedures like close reduction often possible then sling. In operative there is indications like controversial like technique CRPP blade fixation IM device. So if there is also issues in greater tuberosity, lesser tuberosity, and greater tuberosity which is often the deform forces like GT pull superior and posterior by that can only accept minimal di- displacement. So there are certain techniques of doing things of the sling, like sling for comfort for 2 to 3 weeks immediately, therapy for early range of motion. So like the different ways are done, and there are certain complications which are important to discuss like screw cutout, most common complication following periarticular locking, plating fixation up to 14%, avascular necrosis like risk factor of humeral head ischemia are not the same for developing subsequent avascular necrosis, better tolerated than in lower extremities though, and no relationship to type of fixation plate or any kind of wires. Nerve injuries like axillary nerve injury most common up to 58% and increase the risk with lateral approach, that is deltoid splitting. Axillary nerve is usually found 5 to 7 centimeters distal to the tip of the acromion. So also man union. in the usually varus apex anterior or malunion of GT, then non-union most common after two-part surgical neck fracture. Treatment of chronic non-union malunion in elderly should include arthroplasty. So there are certain ways of doing things in the this kind of fracture. So in the humerus fracture, it is very important for us as an occupational therapist to consider certain functional ways in which the patient can participate in his or her task. So we have to make the patient independent in the performance criteria of the functions of they prefer, and which is indicated as per their age group or criteria, because this is a very important thing to consider at even points. So here in the distal humerus fractures, if you see that there is a regional, first we'll talk about the regional anatomy. So here the distal most little column is the uh, capitulum. So the thing is, and the distal most part of the medial column is the non-articular medial epicondyle. So the articular segment is formed by the trochlea, that is medial, and the capitulum, that is lateral. So here the trochlea form, forms the tie arch between the lateral and the medial columns. So this articular segment is tilted 40 degree forwards, and in the anterior posterior view, if you see that the articular surface makes an angle of 48 degree valgus to the shaft axis. So anteriorly there are two fossa, and the radial fossa and the coracoid fossa posteriorly. So, and there is an olecranon fossa, and this receive the head of the radius and coronoid and olecranon process of the ulna respectively. So, if you see the incidence, that is it is a kind of a rare fracture, but comprised of 0.5% of all the adult fractures. And if you say the type A has a 10%, type B has less than 5%, type C has more than 85%, around 85% of the fractures. And 41% cases are often open fractures. The incidence age is about 40 years of age. Here the mechanisms, and if we talk, that is injuries are mainly due to the longitudinal force through the elbow, that is flexed beyond 90 degree. The patient represents the with pain around the elbow, gross swelling, deformity, severe loss of elbow movements, crepitus, and non-vascular impairment may be present in the forearm or hand. Also, the radiograph you see that has a good quality anterior, posterior, and lateral views of the plane X-ray, and it's enough to make an accurate diagnosis. So the classifying as it is as you can see in the image, that is extra articular, which is image A and B, if you see on the left side, and type, that is A, and type B is partially articular, and type C is completely articular, that is T and the Y shape. So there are three types of C variety. So simple T and Y variety. So simple articular fracture with the non-articular supracondylar area is comminuted. The articular segment is comminuted. Also, there are Mehne and Mata A and F classification. So A is for high T, V is for low T, C is for Y fracture, D is for H fracture, E is for medial lambda, and F is for lateral lambda. In the treatment, certain goals that mean the treatment goal basically here is to restore the anatomical configuration of the joint surface. Non-operative methods like the frail and debilitated patients, extreme osteoporosis, local conditions of the skin not conducive for the surgery, open, deglowed, or crush elbow. There are certain methods of overheads, skeletal traction through the olecranon, initial traction converted to cast brace, or hinge brace. The operative treatments, that is the treatment of choice in unstable distal humerus fracture. So this can be accomplished by open reduction and rigid internal fixation with screws or plate and screws at 90 to 90 plating. Then reconstruction of lateral medial columns has to be done and fixed with a plate or screws with fixation of the intra-articular segment, and also open reduction and internal fixation of the distal humerus through a olecranon osteotomy approach. It seems to be offering better results of the late. The certain advantages like the reconstruction of the distal humerus is more accurately and helps in early mobilization of the elbow, enables early restoration of elbow functions, and this is how the distal form of the injury, that is distal radius, distal humerus fracture. Sorry. So this is more of done. So here in the image, you will see that a radiograph showing method of internal fixation by intra-articular fracture of the distal humerus. So A is the comminuted intra-articular variety, whereas the B is reconstruction of the intercondylar fracture. So this how you can see that there are certain forms and injuries which are happening at this spot, and uh, as in the next slide there are certain arterial injuries also and nerve injuries which I just mentioned. So I'll be giving a little brief of this kind of injuries in the next slide of this. So here you see that there are injury to the blood vessels and also this radial nerve injury. So the blood vessels in a close proximity to the bones are injured during fractures and dislocations. So the blood vessels may be injured in one of the compression ways, that is relax vasospasm compression by the fracture fragments or hematoma or incomplete tear, complete tear, partial tear, internal thrombus, tight encircling bandages. So these images we can see here in the upper image. Also, the effects of the injury, like the initial stages, it may range from mild to ischemia to the gangrene in later stage ischemic contractures, which may develop. So, also the clinical features here, that is maybe apart from the usual features, the patient may show imaging signs of vascular disaster recognized by the 5 P's basically, that is pain, pulselessness, paresthesia, pallor, and paralysis. So I'll repeat again for you: 5 P's, that is pain, pulselessness, paresthesia, pallor, and paralysis. And cold extremities herald the onset of the gangrene. In investigation, there are certain ways of doing it, that is by the Doppler angiogram studies. So this can be done in this way. There are injuries to the nerves, which you see here, that is the mechanism of the nerve injury as I mentioned here. So the nerve may be damaged by the fracture fragments, entrapment between the fragments during the fracture reduction. That time also it can happen, and direct injury to the by the bullets, sharp cutting weapons, and in late stages the nerve may be trapped in the callus or fibrous tissue. So this is also another way of the occurrence of the injuries to the nerves and in other aspects. So that's all for the humerus fracture, and I have covered all the parts of the humerus fracture, all the topics of the humerus fracture. This is how you can go, and this is how you can understand the topic for their in the part of the humerus fracture. So thank you.